Let's lock in. The last Crescendo was tainted by biased commentary, last minute replacements, and bad scoring. So there has always been this debate: was Turkey Al Sheikh good for boxing? I've always given my concerns, and people would brush him off. He's good for boxing in the sense that we get the major fights that we want to see. But the last Crescendo was also a glimpse of what we could worry about, or a glimpse of what we could see, and a glimpse of some of the problems we may have if boxing is truly under the hands or in the hands of one individual. And to me, one is the biased commentary. Moving forward, Sean Porter does not count as an impartial American commentator. Neither does Chris Mannix. These are guys who are afraid to speak truth to power. You need to bring in someone like Roy Jones. You need to bring in someone like Antonio Tarver. To me, these guys are too good. You can bring in Paulie Malignaggi. I think he was, he spoke it like it was, and people didn't like it. Same with Antonio Tarver. The same with Roy Jones. The one thing I don't want, it's like these guys that you got calling these fights now, they're like certified fanboy company men who don't want to tell it like it is. And you hurt your product that way. When Sean Porter came out and said, I scored the fight for Shiraz, he was getting roasted online. Like his credibility was just shot to pieces. Like you can't sit there and say you just like when Crawford was fighting Madrimov and they were sitting there really trying to gas Madrimov up. And I think Timothy Bradley someone was calling the fight. I think it was Timothy Bradley. It was a former fighter. And I'm like, you can't let them say this stuff. And Timothy finally, like, was it against Madrimov? It was one fight. I can't remember what it was. I don't even think it was Madrimov. I don't think Timothy Bradley did it for the Madrimov fight. He got heavily criticized. So there was another fight where Timothy Bradley finally stood up and was like, nah, y'all are gassing this up. We got to call it like it is. And I'm like, finally, Timothy, finally, brother. Like, I mean, look, Sean Porter, I know you get into the money outside of boxing, and that's cool. Do you, man? But for me, listening to this biased commentary is just hurting the game. And this was probably the first time I watched a Riyadh season card where the commentary is not necessarily good for any of their cards, but this was the first time where I felt like you're trying to do a psych job on me. You're trying to do a psych job on me, but I know too much about boxing for you to do a psych job on me. But for the casual, you're trying to influence them. HBO used to do this, and people started calling them out on it. Like it was evident that they were trying to influence how people saw what was happening in Madrimov Ortiz and in Shiraz Adames. And it was horrible. It was bad. It was like Jedi mind trick. It was just what the hell is going on? I had people tweeting me like, yo, I thought I was crazy because I wasn't seeing it the way the commentators were seeing it. And I always told, trust your eyes. Don't listen to them. They have interest in the game. They are trying to persuade you this way because it's best for their company. And I knew there was going to be some effery when Sean Porter got on that mic and said, I scored it for Shiraz. I said, oh, damn. I thought they were going to flat out rob Adames. But he was so dominant, they couldn't rob him because they knew that if they would have robbed Adames, it would have hurt what they're trying to build. But this is my point. Once you let them build this league, where they are in control of everything, a fight like the one we saw with Adames, Shiraz would have won. And there's nothing you can do about it because there's nowhere else for you to go. Right now, there's still PBC, but how long will PBC be? You understand? But if you're Adames, and isn't Adames with PBC? I don't think Adames is with them. Adam Az is with them, but that's another good thing to. I should have looked into that. But my point is, like, you got to be careful with this, because once they're in control, this was the time where I saw potential corruption. I'm gonna call it like it is. Turkey's done some great things, but this was the first time where I was watching it like, ooh, this looks bad. And if you give this man control over everything, he's in the corner telling this guy he's down 2 rounds, and somehow this man walks out with a draw. His promoter, Frank Warren, is in the crowd, seeing him get dominated, runs to his corner to tell him, man, you got to step it up. And somehow this man pulls out a draw. He did interviews after the fight. He know he lost. He know he lost. This was the worst draw on a scorecard that I've seen since Canelo got a draw with Floyd. But like, let's be real. Let's be real. Adames spanked the dude, and the commentary sitting there trying to make you believe that Shiraz was in the fight. And the sad part is it worked against some of those individuals who don't know, who are straight casuals. They don't understand how to score boxing. They try to do it with Madrimov and Ortiz as well. So to me, that was very bad. Now, the last minute replacements. When you build a card like this one, where it was promoted, and even like rightfully so, it was going to be one of the greatest cards ever, if arguably the greatest card ever. But then you had these last minute replacements, and these aren't just last minute replacements in the Bill filler fights. These are, last minute replacements in world title fights. So you have Shakur Stevenson, arguably the best pound for pound, about to fight someone who's not a world champion, but who's an upcoming prospect who many people in the boxing community, particularly on YouTube and on social media, believe in. There's a lot of people who believe in Floyd Schofield. There's not a lot of people who believe in Josh Padley. So although they're ranked similarly, there are a lot of people who ride with Schofield. Schofield has been making the YouTube circuit. He's been hitting that YouTube community market, promoting himself that way, building up his following that way. And respect to him, he's been successful at it. So you have people in the YouTube community who were really hoping to see what Floyd Schofield can do, because it's like Nas said in Death Row East, like, this originated in the streets. This originated at the ground level. This originated like for the boxing purists. This is how this happened, because we sit around here in our free time, we watch and we listen to we hear Schofield talking about how he gonna beat up Shakur. We hear all this. So this originated organically in the boxing streets. We wanted to have that beef settled, and then all of a sudden Schofield's not fighting Shakur. So he was let down. So the replacement guy is Padley, and it's great. We still get to see Shakur, but we already knew Shakur was talented. We already knew Shakur would box someone's head off. We already knew this about Shakur. So we get no answers in that fight. What we wanted to know was whether Floyd Schofield could back up all the stuff he was saying about Shakur. That was the intrigue. The intrigue was gone. Now, Joseph Parker has been training, putting in work, because he wants to become 2-time heavyweight champion of the world. Face-offs with Daniel Dubois. Press conferences with Daniel Dubois. That is who he's set. He got his sights set on. And a lot of people believe he can knock off Daniel Dubois. I personally believe he was going to knock off Daniel Dubois. And then last minute, Daniel Dubois pulls out of the fight because he's sick. Like Floyd Schofield is sick. And in comes Martin Bacoli. That's not fair to Bacoli, and that's not fair to Joseph Parker. Joseph Parker thought he was going to be 2-time heavyweight champion of the world last night. He got the opportunity ripped right from under him. Oh, and for your troubles, we're going to throw you in with this guy who's many people believe is the most feared heavyweight, and he might knock you out, but we don't know. But you're going to let us know how good he really is. So you still got a big fight, but you're not going to be champion. Sorry. And Martin Bacoli, who's sitting on the couch, the opportunity comes, if you're Martin Bacoli, because you feel like you've been left out, you feel like everyone's been avoiding you, you feel like this opportunity may never come again, You accept this opportunity, although you're not in shape. You're going to have to catch 2 to 3 flights. You're going to have to wear someone else's gloves. You put yourself behind the 8 ball trying to, and look what we got. So to me, you have a situation where the last minute replacements kind of really hurt the card. And in the future, I think it'll be best to have good fighters on standby. But then again, that's horrible. That's not, it's for lack of better words, it sucks. But you know, when you put on a massive card like this, you got to have last minute replacements ready, and they got to be in shape and prepared to go. And if they don't get a fight on that night, maybe you can have them be on another card or something like that. But I don't know. The last minute replacements, it really took a lot out of the fight, because for Joseph Parker, I know he wanted to become 2-time heavyweight champion of the world. The people of New Zealand wanted to see him become 2-time heavyweight champion of the world. I wanted to see if he could beat Daniel Dubois. Martin Bakole was a great replacement for the namesake, but when we look at it in hindsight, Martin Bakole wasn't in the shape he needed to be in to be competitive with Joseph Parker, and he was probably someone who felt like, if I'm never going to get an opportunity, this is a chance. It may not be the best chance, but at least I'll be able to say I got my chance, and he jumped on it, and we saw what happened with him. So last minute replacements really hurt the last Crescendo. And lastly, bad scoring hurt the last Crescendo. Shiraz, that was horrible. Seeing Turkey Al-Sheikh do what he did, that doesn't help people believe, or I should just say it hurts the credibility of Riyadh season and what they're trying to build. When you see Turkey Al-Sheikh in the middle of a fight go to a fighter, give him instructions and tell him that he's down by 2 points, and then that guy still pulls off a draw when the world knows he got dominated, hurts the credibility of the card. The biased commentary, it was bad, but for Ortiz, he still got the victory. So I'm willing to let that be and separate the two. But when you see Shiraz get what he got after hearing Ortiz, Madrimov, and the biased commentary, you start to think like, oh man, maybe like if Ortiz wasn't as dominant as he was, he would have got robbed too. So the bad scoring. And the last fight, the main event, I had it 114. Dimitri Bivol winning to me is not a robbery. Dimitri Bivol winning to me, I didn't see it that way. But again, there was one swing round to me, and I gave it to Better BF. So I can see an argument for it going to Bivol. Although personally, I don't think you should be able to win fights fighting and throwing 3 flurries, one in the beginning, one in the middle, and one at the end of the round, when someone else is consistently applying pressure, throwing punches, and making the fight because you are running or you are backpedaling away from it. Although from 7, 8, 9, I don't think that Bivol was running at all. I think he was standing his ground, and I think he was creating distance to create offense. So I don't think it's a bad decision to give it to Bivol, but me personally, I scored it a draw. And if you ask me, whose style do I prefer? I prefer Better BF style, because I am not a fan of these guys who run and stay on their bike and backpedal and the entire fight. I don't like that. Not to say that Bivol did that. Bivol is a boxer. When I talk about the difference between running and boxing, what Bivol was doing was boxing. What Madrimov was doing was running, and what Shiraz was doing was running. What Bivol was doing is boxing, and that's why he won, because what he was doing was boxing. So that's why he won. Although I had it a draw, like I said, there was a swing round, gave it to Bivol. He won. He won because he's a good boxer. He's a very talented boxer, and you can't take anything away from him. And like I said, there are a lot of great fights that can be made with Dimitri Bivol, and I'd love to see him. I take nothing away from him. He has nothing to do with the scorecards, and it wasn't a robbery. So kudos to him. And he silenced his ex-wife, who was probably somewhere upset. She didn't get to yell Artur again. So I told everyone, I tweeted this out before the fight. I got Beterbiev, but I'm worried because the type of hate that Bivol received from his ex-wife after he took that L the first fight can turn a man into a different type of beast. And you know what? I bet you he was in that corner. They were the guy he brought to massage his leg was massaging on his leg, and they told him like, "Your wife is celebrating. Your ex-wife is celebrating right now. She just tweeted Artur, Artur." And then that's when that happened in between round 7. That happened after round 6. And that's when that's when Bivol went in there and started taking the fight to Beterbiev because he wasn't trying to go through that again. So, you know, this had some serious ramifications on it. And Bivol now can walk around with his head high when he pick up his kids. No, I'm just joking. But anyways, salute to Bivol. It was a very entertaining fight either way. And I look forward to seeing who they match him up with in the future because whether it's Trilogy, whether it's Canelo, whether it's Crawford, or even if they sneak a Benavidez in there, which Benavidez is with PBC. So I don't necessarily know how realistic that fight is. But regardless, those are all great fights that can be made with Dimitri Bivol. And I will be watching. Thank you for watching this video. If you like the analysis, but you don't have time to watch YouTube or you work a job where you can't watch YouTube, you can listen to the analysis on my podcast available on every streaming services. Thank you for rocking with me. It's Caden. I'm out. Peace.